Ever wondered why men are becoming scarce at singles events? It's a question that's been on the minds of many, and today, we're going to delve into it. You see, there's a trend emerging, one that's not so favorable for the gents out there. Men are, for lack of a better word, disappearing from singles events. But why is that? Well, first off, there's the issue of the foodie call. Yes, you heard that right. Men are feeling increasingly used at these events, turned into free meal tickets and drink dispensers. It's not a pleasant feeling to be reduced to nothing more than a walking wallet, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Aside from the financial aspect, there's also the emotional and psychological toll. Dates are starting to feel more like job interviews than opportunities for connection. Questions like, what do you do for work, or how much money do you make, are becoming the norm, making men feel like they're under scrutiny rather than being genuinely engaged with. And then, we have the unrealistic standards set by women. The six-pack, six-figure earnings, and 6 feet tall expectations have men feeling like they're constantly falling short. It's as if there's a checklist, and if you don't tick all the boxes, you're out of the game. The result of all this? Men are starting to pull away. They're feeling rejected and ignored, and it's contributing to their scarcity at singles events. It's a harsh reality, but one that needs to be addressed. Moreover, many women are looking for the top 20% of men, even if they themselves might fall into the mid to below average category. This skewed perspective further alienates men, making them feel like they're being judged solely on superficial traits. So the question becomes, what can men do to change this narrative? Stick around as we explore this further in the upcoming scenes. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Let's delve deeper into the reality of singles events. Imagine being in a room filled with strangers, where each interaction feels like a job interview. As a man, you are expected to impress, to charm, and to stand out. Each conversation is like walking on a tightrope, balancing between being confident without coming across as arrogant, being interesting without appearing to try too hard. And the questions, oh, the questions. What do you do for a living? How much do you earn? It's as if your worth is determined by your job title and bank account. Now, let's add the monetary aspect. The expectation to buy drinks, sometimes meals, all in the name of making a good first impression. The financial burden is real and it's often one-sided. Then there's the unrealistic standards, the so-called 666 rule, six-pack abs, six-figure salary, and above 6 feet in height. It's not just unattainable for most, it's downright discouraging. The reality is most men at these events face a barrage of rejections. Each no chips away at their self-esteem, each dismissive glance feels like a blow. The atmosphere at these events can be draining, and the constant pressure to meet someone else's high standards can feel like an uphill battle. At the end, the experience at these events can feel draining and unrewarding, leading men to seek alternatives. Did you know that a majority of women at singles events are aiming for the top 20% of men? Quite a shocking revelation, isn't it? But it's a fact, and it's contributing to the scarcity of men at these events. Picture this, a room full of bright, flirtatious women, all setting their sights on a small fraction of the men present. Men who, according to societal standards, are considered the cream of the crop. These are the men who possess the coveted triple sixes, six-pack abs, six-figure salaries, and a height of over 6 feet. But here's the catch. Many of these women, despite their own average or even below average attributes, still uphold these high expectations. They're aiming for the stars while standing firmly on the ground. This skewed perception is not only unrealistic but also discourages a majority of men from participating. And why wouldn't it? The constant comparison and competition can be quite disheartening. It's like being in a race where you're not just expected to compete, but to outshine and outclass. To be part of the top 20% of men, a benchmark set not by personal capabilities, but by societal norms and expectations. This fallacy, this illusion of the ideal man, has created an environment where men feel undervalued and overlooked. They are left questioning their worth and the feasibility of such events. And to be frank, who can blame them? This disparity has made the singles event environment unappealing to many men. What's worse than being used and rejected, being disrespected? Now let's dive deeper into this. In many relationships, men find themselves cornered into roles that feel more like obligations than choices. It's become commonplace for women to expect their partners to work, do chores, and provide while failing to reciprocate these efforts. It's as if the relationship has become a one-way street, with men doing all the heavy lifting. This imbalance of expectations isn't just unfair, it's downright disrespectful. Imagine being expected to juggle a full-time job, house chores, and then come home to a partner who's more interested in their phone than in you. And to add insult to injury, many modern women proudly state phrases like, "I don't cook, I don't clean," as if it's a badge of honor. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a woman choosing not to engage in traditional roles. But expecting a man to shoulder all the responsibilities without offering anything in return? Well, that's a recipe for resentment. These attitudes are not only damaging to relationships but also to the very idea of dating. It's no surprise men are feeling disincentivized to date modern women. Why should they put themselves out there only to be used, rejected, and disrespected? With all these reasons, it's no wonder men are choosing to stay away from singles events. So what's the solution to this problem? Well, gentlemen, let's come back to basics. Let's propose a natural alternative to these singles events. Picture this: meeting women in natural public places, such as parks, coffee shops, bookstores, or even supermarkets. Yes, it might sound old school, but it's a tried and true method that has been somewhat forgotten in the hustle and bustle of modern dating. Let's consider the advantages of this approach. Firstly, there's less pressure. You're not in a room full of people with the same goal, feeling like you're under a microscope. It's a casual encounter, a chance meeting where you can strike up a conversation based on common interests, or even just the situation at hand. Secondly, the interactions are more organic. There's no set agenda, no list of questions to answer. It's just two people getting to know each other naturally, without the artificial constraints of a singles event. And who knows, you might find that you have more in common with someone you meet in the produce aisle than someone you meet at a speed dating event. Lastly, the financial burden is significantly less. There's no entrance fee, no obligation to buy rounds of drinks, and no expectation to impress with your wallet. It's a more equal footing where you can focus on getting to know the person instead of trying to win them over with your bank balance. Of course, this approach requires a level of confidence and the ability to strike up a conversation. But remember, practice makes perfect. The more you engage with people in everyday situations, the more comfortable you become. And let's face it, rejection in a supermarket is a lot less daunting than rejection in front of a room full of people. So next time you think about attending a singles event, consider the alternatives. You might just find what you're looking for in the most unexpected places. In conclusion, it's clear why men are opting out of singles events. We've delved into the unpalatable reality of these gatherings, where men often feel used for free drinks and meals, the infamous foodie call. We've discussed how these events can feel more like job interviews than enjoyable social experiences, with probing questions about income and occupation becoming the norm. We've also unpacked the unrealistic expectations many women at these events hold. The 666 demand, a six-pack, six-figure income and 6 feet height, is a standard few can meet. This leads to an overwhelming majority of men being dismissed outright, contributing to their scarcity at these events. We've highlighted the lack of respect men feel both at these events and within relationships. The expectation for men to be all things at all times, the breadwinner, the housekeeper, the intimate partner, without reciprocal effort is a hard pill to swallow. And let's not forget the so-called top 20% fallacy, the idea that a majority of women are seeking the top fifth of men, regardless of their own standing. This skewed perception further disincentivizes men from attending singles events. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. We've proposed meeting women in natural public places as a more authentic, less pressurized alternative. Remember, you don't have to play a game that's rigged against you. Choose your own path.